Hello students, hope you're all doing well. So students, in today's session, we will be starting with module 3 of the subject talent and knowledge management. Okay, so let us start the session. So module 3 is a very important module as this module has to do with talent planning. Now, if you remember in the subject human resource management or human capital management, in your first year, you would have studied about a topic called as human resource planning, right? So what is human resource planning? It is nothing but planning for the right number, that is quantity and also quality of people that is required for a company in order to pursue its goals and accomplish its tasks, thereby reaching at its end goals like profit maximization, profit optimization and success and so on. Okay, so here we are referring to human resource planning, but here in human resource planning it used to be just about the employees or any worker, and according to the skill set you're going to decide what quantity and what quality of people is required. But here in this topic of talent planning, we are referring to the talent resources. We are not looking at just the regular workers. Instead, we are looking at the talent resources and how do we go about planning for having the best of these talent resources for working in your company. Fine, that is what this module is going to be all about. Fine, so here this term talent planning can also be alternatively termed as HR planning, can also be termed as manpower planning and personnel planning, and finally workforce planning. So these are all the alternative terms which can be used for the term talent planning, and you must be aware about this. So this particular module is going to give us more understanding about how talent planning activities take place, what is the importance of talent planning, what are the other activities and processes involved in the course of talent planning that technically takes place in a company. So let us start with the class. The first is we need to understand the term talent plan. Talent plan is nothing but it is like a plan which gives us much more detail regarding what type of talent resources are required according to the type of job which is being kept vacant in the company. Okay, so you might have n number of people available in the market, but not all people can precisely match your requirement, isn't it? So what we basically do is we make the plan so feasible that you must look at options, you must make the best of best choices, and you must always make sure that there is this job and candidate fit. That is very important. Okay, so going by the slide, talent plan can also be termed as a talent design. So it is a well drafted statement that covers the various aspects of talent, thereby enabling the managerial decision makers to make the right choice. So a plan basically is like, it is like a tool or an instrument or say a framework which helps us to guide through our actions and behaviors in the company. Okay, so when the plan is good, the plan will tell you what is the purpose of doing that particular activity for which the plan was made or drafted. Number two, what are all the various resources required for us to encourage this plan into real life action. And number three is what are all the other factors to be considered which can have an impact on that element which is going to have an impact on the overall company, right? So all of these three major factors will be considered when we go about crafting a good talent plan. Hence we say talent plan also helps us in giving us the right inputs through which you will be able to take up managerial decision making and thereby ultimately make the right choices. Okay, the next would be the contents of a talent plan. So please note it, students, this can be important for your exam. Okay, so whenever we discuss about a topic on a talent plan, what does this talent plan actually include? Okay, what are the contents? Number one, it will include job positions that are being kept vacant in the company for which you are going to make a talent plan so that you will be able to find the best of talent resources and fill the job which is kept vacant in the company. Second is identification of the talent requirements, which is nothing but what are all the requirements, what are all the necessary elements that these talent staff requires in order to pursue their goals. Okay, so identification of talent requirements can include anything and everything which provides a platform for these talented resources to pursue their goals and also render their service to the company. It can also include what are the expectations the company's management have from these talent resources, like experience, expertise, exposure, skill set, and so on, and also other such facilities which have to be given to the talented resources so that they can stay comfortably and pursue their goals and targets. Okay, the third would be planning for the budget. Very important. See, anything and everything that takes place in a company happens with the prime objective of taking or catering to the requirements of expenses and inflows, that is cash inflow. So a budget is like a detailed statement which tells you what will be the total amount of money required for you to spend or invest on these kind of activities, plus what will be the expected return that you will get for whatever expense you have made today. That is for this such talent planning activities. Okay, so you must have a clear cut budget estimate which gives you a track of what all expenses have to be borne by the company, so that accordingly they can plan their other expenses also. The next is contact the R&D, that is research and development, for further analysis. R&D section is going to give you a lot more practical insights into this particular domain. It is going to tell you what is the demand and supply that is there in the market. It is going to tell you what are all the various kinds of latest skills and upgradation elements that has to be seen and viewed by the company, and which has to be also available in the employee, so that such employees who possess these kind of skill sets can become perfect elements of match with the company according to its progression rates also. Okay, so we must look at the big picture. Today's world, companies are growing up to multiple folds. Are we on par with these companies? How can we sustain ourselves? All these questions can be answered when you take insights from the R&D team, who give you practicality in terms of what and when and how it has to be included, which is going to give us a guide through how activities have to take place during the talent plan session. Okay, the next is plan for succession plans. Succession plan is nothing but you must provide a course path or a path which the successors or the leaders are going to take in order to build the organization and lift the organization to greater heights. Okay, now when we discuss about succession plan, let me make it very clear. Successors need not necessarily mean only people who come at the topmost level of the organization. Okay, successors or leaders can be anybody who can come from any layer of the organization, that is top, middle, and low. From any one of these layers, you can identify successors or leaders. So you must provide them a standard track or a path which has to be used, so that can be take best advantage by these candidates, and accordingly they can move forward in their career. Okay, so that is also very important. Plan for succession plan, the plan or the track which is required by the successors for that, so that they can use that standard path for them to find even more success in their careers. And then you must also plan for an appraisal system. Appraisal system is nothing but, when I say appraisal, it means to conduct scrutiny or evaluation of performance of the employee. Okay, so appraisal system is something which gives you insights or an idea regarding what is the current existing appraisal system, or talent appraisal system which is being practiced in the company, so that you should be able to objectively measure the performance outcome of the talent resources. You cannot come up with subjective measures, because subjective measures can be generalized. They are like generic statements. They do not give you precise results. When you talk about objective results or objective measures, they can be measured precisely on the basis of ranks, rates, weights, or also on the basis of numerical values assigned on the basis of the actual performance achieved by the talent resources. So such kind of systems also should be in place. Only then you'll get to know the distinction between good performer versus average performer versus poor performers. Okay, and then we ultimately go for making the final choice regarding what kind of talent resource is required, what kind of talent plan strategy has to be used in order to get the best of talent resources into the company. Okay, all of these things are going to be elements which are going to be a part of the talent plan which companies are going to make. Fine. The next topic would be about talent planning. So firstly, we will be discussing the definition of talent planning. So according to James Walker, HR planning or talent planning is the process of analyzing an organization's human resource needs under changing conditions and developing activities necessary to satisfy those needs. So what do we mean by this particular definition? It says talent planning is basically like a process. It consists of n number of or a series of activities which are connected, interrelated and interlinked with one another. Okay. Now this process is used in order to analyze an organization's human resource requirements or needs. How many people are required? What is the quantity and quality of people required? When I say quantity, we refer to the number of people required to various job positions kept vacant. When I say quality, we refer to the skill set, we refer to the experience, expertise and exposure levels of the employees or the talent resources. This is one side, that is from the company side. Okay. One more side comes from the employee side or the talent resource side. So what is that they are expecting? Is it money? Is it higher pay scale? Is it going to be any other benefits? Is it going to be any other casual emoluments or perquisites or any other in cash and in kind benefits? Is it going to be facilities in terms of infrastructure and many more? So what is it that the people need and what is it that you want the people to have in them, which is going to have a reflexive effect or a reflection effect on the company in terms of bringing more business for the company, right? So all of these things have to be analyzed for you to get data regarding these areas so that you can accordingly plan and then keep yourself ready to face any challenge which is going to come in that particular area. And finally, you must also make sure that you must understand the various factors or elements in the environment and how these factors are going to have an impact on various initiatives that are being taken as a part of the talent planning exercise. Okay, so all these things have to be done keeping in mind we ultimately fulfill the needs and requirements of the talent resources as well as what the company expects or wants the employees to do, so that is going to give a long range impact on the company's success rate. Okay, then the next is the process of talent planning. So talent planning, as I already told you, has a series of steps involved in it. It is not going to be abrupt, right? So we will have to go through this particular sequence of activities, which is going to give us the clarity regarding the various aspects which are to be included in the process of talent planning. The first is environmental scanning. Second point, organizational objectives and policies. Third point, estimating manpower requirements, manpower gaps. Fourth point is action planning. And the fifth point is evaluation and control. So let us discuss each of these points one by one. Okay. So coming to the first point, environmental scanning is nothing but it is like a fact-finding study wherein we need to conduct a detailed analysis of the environmental factors which are going to have an impact on the company and its activities. Okay. Now, when I say activities, here specifically the talent planning activity. Fine. So when we look at environmental factors, these factors can be broadly categorized into two. One is the internal factors and the other is going to be external factors. When we look at internal factors, we refer to those factors which are within the control limits of the company, and these factors can be accommodated according to the requirements of the company and its resources. Whereas when we talk about external factors, these are those factors which will have a very big impact on the company's activities, and you as a company have to accordingly adjust and be more adaptable to these factors, because external factors are not controllable factors. It is you who has to accommodate according to the changes taking place to these external factors. Okay. Now let us look at some of these factors. Number one, competition. Yes, you must see what is the relative level of competition present in the market, where your company stands, and who are your competitors, what are their relevant talent planning strategies, how are they able to come up with good results in the long run. All of these factors and aspects have to be understood, analyzed, and accordingly you will have to carve out your own strategy for succession. The second is government rules and regulations. Yes, see, you must understand that without the influence of government and other bodies, you will not be able to sustain your operations on a day-to-day basis. Each and every activity that you do will be monitored, will be regulated, and will be checked by the various government authorities and bodies by making a lot of rules and regulations which are going to govern the way in which things and activities takes place in a particular company. Hence, you need to understand that your company, irrespective of whatever it does in terms of whatever industry it's working for or is under, you must make sure that all the rules and regulations governing that particular task or the company has to be abided by, and accordingly you will have to imbibe all these factors when you make your company's policy and procedures also. The next is talent acquisition. What do we mean by talent acquisition? It is nothing but the systematic process of acquiring or sourcing out the best of best talent resources which is required for your company, so that you can fill up the positions which are kept vacant and accordingly start pursuing your goals, right? So talent acquisition is very important. Now this point is going to be a very important factor because you should know how to acquire the talent, number one. Number two, which are the various sources from where you can acquire the talent, like job portals, employment exchanges, and many more things like consultancies and so on. And you must also know how to have a good relationship with these people, as they are going to act as facilitators in helping us in bringing the best of talent resources for the company. The next is outsourcing activities. So as I told you, talent acquisition, you can do it all by yourself, or you need to get it done by some third parties, which is nothing but your outsourcing activities. Apart from that, you must also have a very good understanding and very good network that has to be in place, where companies have to collaborate with various kinds of organizations and institutions and associations who are into the talent planning activity, as these organizations can give you very good inputs in terms of finding the best of talent resources for your company. And finally, we talk about talent management system, which is nothing but it is like an application software package which is being used by a lot of companies. Now this software package is going to help you to take up or to practically do all of the activities which technically a person would do in order to facilitate the talent planning activity, so that it puts human labor to minimum. The only place where human intervention comes is when you're supposed to make the final decision. Rest all things like collecting, storing, retrieval of information, analysis, assortment of data and information, all of these aspects are being done by these software packages themselves. Okay, and hence that also becomes one of the factor, because you need to know where these software packages are available, what is the competency level that the companies can acquire post installation of these kind of software packages. And one more thing is, what is the cost that the company will incur in order to subscribe to these kind of software packages. So all of these factors are going to be not within the control of the company. There are certain things, they are those factors which seeks approval from the external parties also, right? And then we go to the second step, that is organizational objectives and policies. Yes, see, irrespective of whatever you do in a company, you should not do anything beyond the purview or limitations of the organizational objectives and policies. Whatever is the existing or current objective and policy, you have to strictly adhere, abide and follow, and accordingly only you will have to move on in doing up or taking up various activities and processes. Now under that, we need to focus on two things. Number one, right talent choice. Yes, make sure, keeping in mind the objectives and policies, within these two elements and their purviews, you are supposed to make the right choice of the right talent resource for the company. Okay, without abiding by the objectives and policies, if you make a choice, that choice will not be valid, it becomes void, and it cannot give you the desired results, because it is not finding a match with the company's long-term objectives and the policy frameworks. And the second is, you must always look for something called as cost effectiveness. Yes, whatever you do, however you do, with whatever resources you do, ultimately anything that we do involves an element of cost associated with that particular activity. So what we are supposed to do is, we have to make sure that we try and do those activities which are going to be much more cost effective in due comparison to those activities where you shell out more amount of money, because everything that the company does involves spending or investment or expenditure. So you must be prudent and wise enough to make the right choice so that you don't unnecessarily waste spending huge sums of money on just one activity. Instead, you can try to diversify your risk and accordingly invest on different areas so that you'll be able to get maximum benefit at the same time simultaneously. Okay, the next is estimating manpower gaps, which is nothing but you must know what is the actual quantum of people in the company, what is the actual employee size of the company, how much extra is required, and how much is too much that you have in the company. All of these things have to be made as an assessment. See, you cannot have people who don't contribute anything to the company, and if you're paying for such people, it is just going to be waste of money. In that place, you can have some other better employee to do so, to that particular task or the job which that current employee is doing. And meanwhile, if you feel that is not going to become profitable for a company, you can very well have a software application which can do the task, so that it becomes like once in lifetime investment, and you don't have to regularly pay salaries for the machines. The only thing that you are supposed to do is regular maintenance and installation, reinstallation, and checkup of these softwares have to be done. Okay, so you must see what is that you have in terms of surplus and what is that you have in terms of shortage, with special reference to the talent resources of the company. If there is too much availability of these talent resources, then you have better potential and chances to have them to make the best of choices for the company. When there is shortage of talent resources in the market, then it is going to make your search and your choice more difficult, because you are pushed to choose from what is available in the market. And let me tell you, whenever there is shortage, almost all the companies which are operating on the same lines or say in the same industry are definitely going to have a war of talent, because they just want to have the best of limited talented resources which is limitedly available, that is shortage in that particular market. So that is also going to increase the competitive pressure in the market for all the companies, and that is also going to be one of the factors which is going to trigger companies to come up with even more progressive activities and strategies for their survivability. Okay, so surplus and shortage is something where you need to understand how much is less and how much is more, and how can you accordingly accommodate the situation. Surplus means you have more than what you want or require as talent resource. Shortage means you have less than what you want. So in this kind of a situation, how are we going to find the balance? That is what is to be understood in the third section. The fourth point says action planning. Action planning is nothing but whatever plans we have done, we have to make sure that we convert these plans, which is on paper or in conception stage or in the form of an idea in the brain, into real life actions post its implementation. So under this, we need to go for certain activities, like you need to recruit and select the best of talent resources. You need to give them the adequate number of training and development, that is T&D. And then you'll have to go for retrenchment policy. Retrenchment and layoff are basically those activities which companies would undertake in order to send those companies who are not giving you any results, number one. Number two, if the company feels that it is a cost burden, then obviously they will forcefully send or say, make sure they will remove the employees and give them the exit interview and send them to their homes. Number two. Number three, when there is automation which can replace human labor, and when automated industries are giving you good results, quick results, fast results, and also going to curb your costs, then definitely at that time, in order to replace manual labor with machine labor, they are also going to again go for retrenchment, where they forcefully send all the employees, they forcefully retire all the employees from the company, and in that place they're going to bring machines, technology, and many more, or sometimes even more expertise oriented people. All of these things can be done under retrenchment policy, keeping in mind how quick and efficient the talent resources are. If you find they are very outdated, or they don't have the required skills, then obviously it is the need of the hour where companies have to do this forcefully. So you cannot always look at the benefits that you need to give to the employee. Sometimes you must also understand that you need to take the right decision according to the situation persisting at that point of time. And the next is promotion plan and retention plan. Yes, you need to give adequate amount of promotions for those people who are qualified enough, who are more deserving. And you must also come up with various kind of initiatives whereby you have to retain the best of talent resources within the company itself. The more you come up with these kind of strategies, the greater chances that the employees don't switch over to some other company, because that is also going to be a burden, because it takes a lot of time and money for you to replace one single employee or a talent resource with another person, with a new person, right? So all of these things have to be understood, which becomes key factors or elements under action planning. And finally, we go to the last step, that is evaluation and control. What do we do? What is that we are going to evaluate? We are going to evaluate the success of whatever has been taken place right from the first point to the last but one point. Okay, and see and check whether whatever has happened according to the plans or no. Now this is going to give us very good idea regarding the effectiveness of whatever task and activity we have taken up in this particular process. So the evaluation is basically like a fact finding study. It also helps you to identify the root causes for any problem or any mishap which can potentially take place or which has already taken place in this particular process. And if you feel that the activity is not taking place according to what you expect or desire it to do, then automatically you can go for taking up control measures. Exercise the right type of control measures and exercises so that you will be able to control the deviations and distractions which do crop up or take place in this particular process, so that next time you don't repeat the same error, and thereby you are trying to make yourself up to the mark of perfection. All of these things will be taken into consideration in the process of talent planning. The next is succession management. Now, what is succession management? As I already told you, succession, we derive the word succession from the term successor. Who is called as a successor? Anybody who has found success for himself by his hard-earned efforts. Such people can be termed as successors. Successors have all the potentials to become strong and able leaders. Hence, successors are also alternatively termed as leaders. So, succession management is basically a concept whereby we are going to focus upon how effectively we administer, handle, and manage the successors of an organization. And let me make it very clear, successor need not have to come only in the topmost layer of the company. Successors can find their birth in any organizational hierarchical level. It can be at the low level, it can be at the middle level, or also it can be in the topmost level. So all of these three levels, you can find, different people who can act as successors based on the success that they have found in their respective domains and careers. Okay, so let us go with the slide. What is succession management? It is the process of identifying, selecting, assessing, managing, and developing successors at all levels of an organizational hierarchy, including the non-managerial levels. So, there are some key aspects to it. Number one, you need to identify those people. You need to select them and make sure that you give them the right opportunity. You need to evaluate their performance so that you can find ways in which you can further polish their skills and make them better people, better leaders. You must know how to effectively handle, manage, maintain them, and also give them the platform for them to develop themselves holistically. All of these activities have to be done for the benefit of the successor, irrespective of the position held, irrespective of the hierarchy level where that particular person is working. Okay, and it can also include people who come under the non-managerial levels also. Fine. One more thing, it plays a critical role in career planning and talent migration activities. Yes, when you understand the efforts of these successors and the positive impact that these successes can have on the company and its activities, you must make sure that you take this as an input to develop very good career planning initiatives for such people. Hence, we say it plays a critical role in career planning, and it also helps us in taking up talent migration activity. Talent migration is nothing but movement of the talent resources within the organization, across the various levels of organizational hierarchy in order to match them and make them get the best of opportunity available within that particular organization itself. It is very similar to that of internal job posting. Okay. The next would be the process of succession management. So let us discuss the various steps involved in the process of succession management. So technically speaking, we will be having a total of 5 steps involved in the process of succession management. Let us discuss each of these steps one by one. The first step is align succession management plans with the firm's long-term strategy. Yes, see, firm's long-term strategy refers to the vision and mission which have to be adhered to whenever you make your succession management plans. If the company's purpose is not matching the activity or the succession management plan, then it is not going to make any sense, no matter how fancy or how beneficial that activity is going to be for the company. So when you have a purpose, that is the company's long-term goals and strategy, all of your other aligned activities, or allied activities, have to be perfectly matching and synchronizing with the long-term strategy. Only then you will be able to make the right move and you will be able to make good returns in the long run. The second step is identify competencies and skills required to meet strategic objectives. Yes, you must find the best of best people having the best of best skill set and competencies, so that you will be able to meet the objectives, that is the strategic objectives of the company. You cannot place an incompetent fellow for him to take up task. As a result, you may not be able to reach out to the strategic objective. So whatever you do, make sure you need the best of chunk in terms of the competency levels that they possess and also the skill set, so that can be used in order to meet the long-term strategic objectives of the company. The third step is identify high-performing employees with high potential. This is very, very important because we are looking at successes. We are looking at leaders. So definitely, you must make sure that you make a detailed assessment and identify those key performers, high performing employees with very good potentials, as these people can be used as very good potential resource, so that they can act as perfect replicas or representatives of successes and leaders who can guide through the various activities and processes to along with the fresh entrants who are going to enter into the company, and they can help you take the company to greater heights, keeping in mind the competition on one side, the rules and regulation abidance by other side, and also making sure that you're taking care of their individual requirements in the long run. So identifying the high performing employees, the right potentials, is going to be very important, as these people are going to help you to move your company from where it is to where it can become or where it can reach, that is the most desired status quo. And the next is provide a platform to share experience and develop opportunities. As we know, we are talking about talent friendly organization here. So a talent friendly organization is always going to keep its door wide open in terms of providing a lot of opportunities, a lot of platforms and avenues where they can share, all of these talented resources can share, they can experience and develop new and fresh innovative opportunities. And that is what is going to be important, because you cannot be very static. You cannot stagnate in the company by doing the same thing again and again on a routine fashion. You need to provide an avenue where you come up with new and fresh opportunities, which is going to put the test of the skills of the employees and going to help them to further polish them and mold them to become better talent resources for the company. Okay. And finally, we are going to evaluate the succession management plans for its success rate. This is like a feedback mechanism or a follow-up action oriented mechanism, where you are going to see what has been the efforts of this particular process and make sure that how can you come up with the better ways in which you can overcome if there has been any flaw which you have potentially discovered in the evaluation process. So all of these things together can be summed up under one heading termed as the process of succession management. Okay. Now, the next topic would be cross-functional capabilities. Now, what do we mean by cross-functional capabilities? Cross-functional capability is nothing but we are talking about a concept whereby in today's world, in order to be more competitive, you must have the ability to work cross-functionally irrespective of whichever domain you personally belong to. So it's like an employee or a talent resource must have the potential, ability and the capability or the capacity to cross-functionally work in different domains at the same point of time, which means we are looking at how flexible and adaptable and ready a talent resource is in order to take up multiple tasks and activities cross-functionally from different functional domains, which he can take up and gain mastery over doing such tasks. All of these things have to be very important, as these things are going to be used as core competency elements, which is going to help companies to achieve very good long run benefits for the company in terms of surviving itself and also sustaining itself in the long run. So let us go by the slide and understand what we technically mean by cross-functional capability. Number one, they refer to the ability of a talent or a talent resource to perform the roles of different job positions at the same point of time. See, at the same point of time, in the sense, when you're doing one particular activity, when there is an emergency or a need, and at the same time there is nobody else available in the other functional domain, then this person will be shifted or lifted from that particular position, and he will be expected to do the other task where there is a crisis or where there is absence of that employee, so that you will have to balance the act very well, and you do not have to reach the company to loss. Whenever there is demand, you must keep producing, you must give them what the market wants, and accordingly sustain the operations. Okay. Secondly, CFC, that is cross functional capability, enable employees to perform the job of multitasking. This is what is very important. You must not fix up only for one particular domain or one particular area of activity. Okay, you must be having that ability to cross functionally excel, and accordingly have that expertise to do multitask, and that is what the industry expects even to this day in the corporate world. And then it makes employees more competitive functionally, very very important. Fine. And then we will be looking at the process of building cross functional capability among the workforce. So here we are looking at the ways in which you can instill cross-functional capability in the talent resources or the workforce, which is going to give you good results. Okay. So building of cross-functional capability will not be complete unless and until you understand what are the requirements of various people in order to instill this particular activity in the company, okay, or to the employees. Here we categorize them into three levels. The first level is the organization's requirements in building the cross-functional capability. The second is the team members' requirements in building CFC. And the last is the leaders' requirements in building CFC. Let us discuss each of these three categories one by one. First is organization's requirements in building CFC. So what does the company want as a requirement in order to build CFC in a much more effective manner amongst its existing workforce? First is consider the processes required for forming, managing, assessing, and liquidating teams. This is going to be very important. Here, what we basically do is we have to make an assessment and find out what are the various processes which are responsible, which are required in order to take up various activities like forming, managing, assessing, and liquidating the teams. We mean the working teams, which is going to be essential, as a company would be split up into different functional teams. Only then you will be able to go for work specialization and division of labor, which is going to give you quick and precise results in terms of performance outcomes. The second point is identify competent and knowledge functional groups, which is nothing but you must find out those groups where you have competent people as well as knowledge, those people who have very good amount of practical insights into the industry and also conceptual clarity, which is going to sum up into one term called as knowledge, right? So when you find these kind of groups, it is these groups who are going to facilitate and help you in successfully implementing CFC or building CFC among the workforce. Third is focus on defining a pragmatic learning culture. Pragmatic is nothing but a very practical, feasible, and viable. Okay, so come up and develop a very pragmatic, a very compulsorily, practically workable and mandatorily workable, culture, which is going to provide you that, that kind of a setup, which is going to make it more easy to learn, understand, analyze, and implement the CFC, elements into workforce. And finally, Identify the tools for performance measurement, as it helps you to identify where the employee stands in terms of his capacity to instill the elements of CFC, so that you will be able to find out those employees who are able to quickly adapt to the requirements or the estimation of CFC, and also identify those employees who do not have the ability to match with the standards of CFC. So accordingly, you will try to split up the employees into different groups, and then each group will be given a special type of treatment or training, which will be used to further polish them to become better people, in becoming more competitive and easy for them to accept and acknowledge the concept of CFC in their routine work culture. And then we go for the next one, that is team members requirements in building CFC. So here we are going to refer to certain requirements that the team members need in order to effectively build CFC among the workforce. Firstly, craft and understand the vision of CFC from the team members perspective. It is nothing but you must know for what purpose or what is the long-term vision that the company has, for which this particular activity has been taken up seriously. If you give that clarity, what basically happens is they know what the purpose is, they know what is going to be the ends of doing this particular activity or task, and thereby the involvement and engagement levels is going to be very high. Okay. Second is define a strong base or a platform for discipline of the team members, as this is going to give you even more precise clarity regarding how you're supposed to take up the task, who's supposed to allot what task to whom, who's supposed to report back to whom, and how effectively are we supposed to work in the form of a collective team. All of these things can be done only when you have a platform for discipline. Okay. Third, acknowledge and accept the contribution of all. Yes, irrespective of whatever be the level of contribution or involvement of people, you must accept, acknowledge their contribution. It might be good, it might be high contribution, average, that is a mediocre level contribution, or a low contribution. You must accept and acknowledge. If you feel that their contribution is less than what you expect from them, then you can give them some push in terms of giving them some training and developmental campaigns, which can push their limits and their potentials, so they can stretch themselves and work much more harder. Okay. And next is establish precise mandatory frameworks for effective decision making. This is nothing but you have to come up with certain standard framework. Okay, like a grid or like a set of principle which will be used for effective decision making. When we don't have a framework like a design or like a layout, it makes you more difficult in coming or reaching at the right decision at the right point of time. So when we have these kind of mandatory frameworks, they provide us a pathway, they provide us a zone within which we are supposed to limit our decision making and make the decisions more workable and functionable. And finally, ensure each member's role in the team is well stated and implemented. Only then they know what they are individually responsible for. Fine. This is about the team members' requirements. The next is leaders' requirements in building cross-functional capability. Here we are referring to just the style of leadership which has to be used in order to build CFC amongst the workforce. There are three styles. Number one, strategic leadership style, which is nothing but a leadership style which will be used at the topmost level or the topmost layer of the management or organizational hierarchy. Second is called as functional knowledge leadership, which is nothing but here we are looking at the functional domain. For every functional domain, you are going to have leaders who are going to guide you through the process and various functional activities and sub-functions in each of these functional domains. And that is going to happen with the help of one leader giving you the instruction. And it is going to be the same leader who is going to take the feedback and reports from you and your suggestions and accordingly implement changes. So functional knowledge leadership style is a leadership style which is functional domain specific, number one. Number two, it is going to be at a much more participative way and understand the requirements of the workforce and accordingly implement changes in that particular corresponding respective domain. Okay. And one more thing, the functional knowledge leadership style is something which will be vividly seen in the second stage or the second layer, that is middle level of the organizational hierarchy. And then we come to operational leadership style, where we refer to the leadership style which is being used in order to facilitate the occurrences and reoccurrences of day-to-day routine operations that technically takes place in a company. So here we are going to touch upon the last and the lowermost layer of the organizational hierarchy, that is low level management or the operational level, where this particular leadership style will be more effective, and that is what will be used in the company. One more thing I wanted to tell you, students, when we talked about strategic leadership style, here we specifically refer to a leadership style which is being used by people at the top level management, which I've already told you. Apart from that, it is this level where major strategies are being made for the company, which are going to have very good impact on the company for a very long period of time. And it is also going to be that place or that area where a major policy change or procedural change, environmental factor change, and orientation of company, all of these are going to be facilitated and changed at this particular level of the managerial hierarchy. So by this, we finish the requirements, that is the leaders' requirements in building cross-functional capability. And finally, we go to this particular slide, which has to do with fusion of talents. So what do we mean by fusion of talent? See, we know what fusion is. It's like mixing up several, genres and making a new genre which is very contemporary in its very presence, right? So fusion of talents in simple words means team of talents. Why we call it as team of talents? As we know, in fusion we are going to mix everything coming from different eras and then put it into one particular box, and then say this is going to be a new era, and this is going to come up with the variations of several eras into one particular new era called as the contemporary era. Okay, not conventional but contemporary. So multiple conventional areas or eras can be combined and assorted into one area called as the contemporary era, called as the fusion. Now that is what we mean by fusion of talents also. So in fusion of talent, we are going to bring and mix and assort different people who are called as talent resources into one particular team, so that we have this fusion or best contemporary merge of different kinds of talent resources in the company. And each of these talent resources is going to be extremely doing well in the company, as they will be contributing much more well for the company in terms of its profitability and in terms of its benefits and more business opportunity which they can create in return. And this is going to be very important because we always talk about the concept of synergy. Synergy is nothing but team spirit and teamwork. Okay, so synergy can be understood with the help of an equation. It says 1 plus 1 is always going to be greater than 3, or 1 plus 1 is always going to be, 1 plus 1 is always going to be greater than 2, or 1 plus 1 is always equal to 3. So this is like an equation which tells you that what you personally do or what you individually do as a contribution or as an outcome in terms of your performance is always going to be much more lesser than what we people can do together as a team. So team effort and team spirit is very important, and that is what has been understood as fusion of talent with reference to this particular topic. And then we will also be discussing about certain principles of talents. And let me tell you, students, this principles of talent can be an important question for 5 marks for your exam. Okay, sometimes it can be stretched and asked for 10 marks. Accordingly, you can also alter, expand and contract your answer according to the marks for which the question is asked. Okay, so principles of talents, let us see what the principles are. Principles basically refers to certain fundamental things which has to be there. Only then it can genuinely justify the term talent. Okay, so first one is break the ego barrier. Yes, if you are a talent resource, you must not carry any ego with you. Ego clashes can take place because you are working with people in the form of teams, and you are working with people who are senior to you, and you will also be working with people who are juniors to you. So this ego is going to be something which is going to be an element which is going to trigger you to do things which you're not expected to do. But unfortunately, it is all about conditioning your mindset and your personality, which many people don't have, right? So you as management students, especially if you are entering into the HR domain, you must make sure that you must understand the concept of ego. You must know how to avoid this bad element called as ego, as this is going to have very bad impact on your relationship with people and the rapport that you create with people in the work atmosphere. So never carry ego. Ego is not going to serve any purpose. Okay. Second is establish trustworthy relationship. It is very important. It is, see, whatever happens in companies, even if somebody has to say something to you, it will be based on that benefit of confidence and trust that they have upon you, right? So you must always be very transparent and accountable and responsible for whatever you say. You say what you do and you do what you say. That is very, very important, or else you might be termed as an hypocrite and people may not have trust on you, and thereby the concept of trustworthy relationship will have a very big hit. Okay. And the next is avoid jealous attitude. Yes. See, the point is very simple. When people have jealousy, only when they have the insecurity and only when they make comparisons with others. See, comparing can be good if you take it as a healthy comparison. But when you compare and accordingly try to defame somebody else just because you are not being more seen or more visible, that is going to be a very bad character, very bad element which is going to push you to a very low level in terms of your exposure, or in terms of what you can become as a complete holistic individual, right? So you must not have jealousy. You must always grow together. And it's like, see, every person have their own levels of skill set. They have their own level of understanding. They have their own way of expressing things. You must understand people the way they are, and you must not end up judging people for what they are. And accordingly, you must not have any amount of hatred or jealousy, because each and every person has his own, share of problems or obstacles or issues or troubles that he or she would have faced to reach wherever they are today, isn't it? So that is something very important. And then respect among the members, very, very important. See, you must make sure that you empathize. When you it's all about how you should treat people the way you want to be treated by others. Now all that comes with respect. Respect is nothing which comes, it shouldn't be something which you do on a very transitory or a temporary basis. Respect is something which you must have within yourself, which should be an element which showcases your personality also, right? So always respect people, respect their emotions, respect what they say, acknowledge, and then accordingly be in a very conducive manner. And that is what is important as a talent resource, because today you are students, tomorrow you are going to become prospective employees, right? So you must have all these things in you. That is what is going to help you in making your career much more stronger. Okay. And then accept and mutually share responsibility. This is going to be very, very important. Only when you give the clarity of who's responsible of what, only then people understand what is the relative level of importance that we have given to them in the company. Only then their involvement will also increase, their morale will increase, their motivation level also will increase towards a particular job or the particular person with whom they are going to work. So all these things are very important, without which the title talent cannot be given to you. Then focus on the organization success rather than individual success. It is all about looking at the long range objectives, like what is it that we need to do in order to find success of the company. It is like having a uniform ideology and having the same set of thinking, so that we are looking at the benefit for the mass and not benefit for self. Okay. Then accept challenges and failures as we accept success. This is very important. As we know, whenever you have challenges, you must not break. See, you should not run away or fear away from challenges. You must have the ability to face the challenge, convert the challenge which is an insecurity or a limitation to you into an opportunity, and that is what is going to push you and make you a better person for the tomorrow. We all have limitations, we all have challenges, we all have to face challenge. You cannot say that I'm not going to face challenge. Irrespective of whichever job you take up, whichever domain you're going to work tomorrow, you have to undergo some amount of challenge, and challenge should be looked as an opportunity for you to learn something, rather than taking it as a threat for your survival, okay, or your profession also. And then accept challenges and also have the ability to accept failures. Only then you will be able to accept anything and everything that comes your way. So it's not just accepting success when it comes to you, but also having the ability and the capacity to accept challenge as well as failures is equally important. Only then you become a very balanced person, without which you will not be able to understand anything that is going to matter to you with respect to your professional goals as well as your personal goals. So students, for today's class, we call it a day. We will stop it here. In my next class, we will start with the remaining topics which are yet to be covered in the third module. Thank you, students.